Captain Sarah Chun stepped off the transport shuttle and immediately felt the weight of 1,000 alien eyes upon her. The crystalline spires of Sunspire Academy stretched impossibly high above them, reaching toward the 3 suns that bathed the station in perpetual golden light. Around her, the other human cadets from Earth's first delegation stood in tight formation, their military bearing sharp despite the nervous energy radiating from the group. The Academy's main platform buzzed with activity as hundreds of alien species moved between classes, their forms ranging from the elegant 6-limbed Altarians to the hulking, rock-skinned granite collective representatives. What struck Sarah most was the immediate silence that fell wherever the humans passed. Conversation stopped. Tentacles paused mid-gesture. Even the quantum-touched seemed to shimmer less brightly in their presence. "Welcome to Sunspire Academy," announced Director Vex High, a tall Altarian whose silver skin gleamed like polished metal. His forearms moved in complex patterns as he spoke, a sign of either excitement or extreme discomfort. "You are the first ... representatives from the newly discovered Human Federation to attend our institution." The way he said representatives made Sarah's jaw tighten. She had commanded 3 successful deep space missions and held degrees in both tactical warfare and xenobiology, but here she felt like a curiosity in a museum. Behind Director Vex High, a council of alien instructors observed the humans with expressions ranging from skeptical to openly dismissive. "Your species comes from what our xenogeologists classify as a Class 12 death world," continued the director, his tone suggesting this was not a compliment. "Earth's gravity is 3 times galactic standard. Your atmospheric composition would be toxic to most civilized species. The predators on your world—" He shuddered, all 4 arms wrapping briefly around himself. "Suffice to say, your evolutionary history presents unique challenges for integration into civilized galactic society." Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez, standing to Sarah's right, kept his face perfectly neutral, but she could see the muscle in his jaw working overtime. The rest of their Squad 12 of Earth's finest military minds maintained discipline despite the obvious insults being wrapped in diplomatic language. "You will be housed in the adaptation wing," Director Vex High announced, gesturing toward a smaller, more isolated section of the Academy. "Your quarters have been specially reinforced to handle your robust physical requirements. Your training will be supervised separately until we can determine your suitability for integration with our standard curriculum." Translation: They were being segregated as they were led through the Academy's main corridors. Sarah noticed the other cadets giving them wide berths. Whispered conversations followed in their wake, conducted in languages she didn't recognize but in tones she understood perfectly: fear, disgust, morbid curiosity. The adaptation wing turned out to be a sterile, reinforced section that looked more like a containment facility than student housing. The walls were twice as thick as those in the main academy. The doors required special authorization codes, and Sarah noticed what appeared to be emergency blast shutters concealed in the ceiling. Their escort, a nervous young Zentari with trembling antennae, explained the basic rules in a voice barely above a whisper. "Meals will be delivered to avoid ... incidents in the main dining facility. Your exercise periods are scheduled when other species are in classes. The gymnasium has been reinforced and isolated. Standard Academy activities are currently under review for your participation." After the escort left, the 12 humans gathered in what passed for a common area. The silence stretched uncomfortably before Lieutenant Rodriguez finally spoke. "Well, this is going exactly as Earth Command predicted it would." Ensign Lisa Park, their demolitions expert, laughed bitterly. 3 generations to earn membership in the Galactic Federation, and they still treat us like animals." "Not animals," corrected Dr. James Wright, their xenobiology specialist. "Animals, they understand. We're something else entirely." He pulled up his tablet, displaying the species classification they'd been assigned. "Class 12 Deathworld inhabitants. Do you know what that means?" It means our planet is so hostile that they can't understand how intelligent life evolved there at all. Sarah studied the data Wright was showing them. Earth's rating was off the charts in every category they measured. Gravitational stress, atmospheric toxicity, predator density, geological instability, radiation exposure. Weather extremes. Humanity had evolved in conditions that would kill most galactic species within hours. Look at this, Wright continued, his voice gaining excitement despite their circumstances. The Altarians evolved on a garden world with 0.7 Earth gravity and no large predators. The Zentari homeworld has a completely stable climate and no geological activity. Even the Granite Collective, who looked tough, evolved in low-gravity environments with minimal atmospheric pressure. "So what are you saying, Doc?" asked Sergeant Lisa Shang, their tactical specialist. "I'm saying that maybe Earth Command sent us here for reasons beyond just academic exchange." Wright's eyes gleamed. "Think about it. 12 military specialists, all with combat experience, all from different tactical backgrounds. They didn't send scientists or diplomats. They sent warriors." Before anyone could respond, an alarm began blaring throughout the facility. The lights shifted to an ominous red, and Director Vexhi's voice echoed through the corridors, all four of his arms clearly audible in his panic. "All cadets to emergency stations. This is not a drill. Hostile contact in the Kepler sector. All senior students report for combat deployment briefing immediately." The humans exchanged glances. Through the reinforced windows of their wing, they could see alien cadets running in obvious panic through the corridors. Some were crying. Others appeared to be hyperventilating. The elegant Altarians moved in confused circles, their graceful coordination completely broken down. "Combat deployment?" Rodriguez muttered. "From an academy?" Sarah was already moving toward the door, her instincts taking over. "Maybe this is what we came here for." But when she tried the door, it wouldn't open. The authorization panel flashed red, and a synthetic voice announced, "Deathworlder containment protocols activated. For your safety and the safety of others, please remain in designated areas until the emergency has passed." Dr. Wright was studying his tablet again, his face pale. "Sarah, look at this. I've been reviewing the Academy's history. They've never had actual combat deployment training. This is a tactical and strategic academy, but they use simulations for everything. Their definition of combat training involves virtual reality scenarios with safety protocols." "What kind of safety protocols?" Chang asked. "The kind that automatically shut down any simulation that might cause actual stress or injury to participants. Their idea of tactical training is theoretical discussion and computer modeling." The implications hit them all at once. These alien species, evolved on peaceful worlds with no predators and little conflict, had built their entire military education system around the assumption that actual danger was something to be avoided at all costs. And now there was a real emergency. Through the security monitors they could access, the humans watched as alien instructors tried to organize deployment teams. The cadets were clearly trained in theory, but the moment real stress entered the equation, their carefully structured education system fell apart. They had never learned to function under actual pressure because their worlds had never required them to develop such skills. "My God," Sarah whispered, watching an Altarian instructor collapse from what appeared to be a panic attack while trying to organize an equipment distribution. "They have no idea how to handle real conflict." The communication system crackled to life. "Attention Deathworlder delegation." Director Vexhi's voice was strained, his usual composure completely gone. "Due to unprecedented circumstances, your containment has been temporarily modified. Report to Tactical Command immediately. Your unique physiological adaptations may be required." Sarah looked at her team, seeing the same understanding in every face. They had been brought here as curiosities, specimens from a world too brutal to be believed. But now, faced with actual danger, the galactic community was about to discover exactly why evolution had forged humanity in the fires of a death world. "Looks like school's about to get very interesting." Rodriguez said grimly as they moved through corridors filled with panicking alien cadets. Sarah couldn't help but notice how differently they moved compared to everyone else around them. Where others stumbled or hesitated, the humans flowed with predatory grace. Their eyes tracked movement patterns and exit strategies automatically. Their breathing remained controlled. While aliens around them hyperventilated, they weren't just students about to attend their first real lesson. They were apex predators entering a hunting ground that no one else understood how to navigate. The tactical command center was in chaos when they arrived. Multiple screens showed what appeared to be a fleet of unknown vessels moving through hyperspace toward the academy. The alien instructors were arguing in high-pitched voices while cadets stood around looking lost. Director Vexhai spotted them immediately. Deathworlders. Your species has experience with ... He struggled to find words. Captain Sarah Chun watched the tactical display with growing concern. The unknown fleet was moving faster than any of the alien predictions had suggested, and their formation patterns indicated military experience that the Academy's theoretical models couldn't account for. Around her, the command center buzzed with increasingly desperate activity as Sunspire's finest minds struggled to comprehend actual warfare. Director, Sarah said quietly, with respect, your current defensive preparations won't work. Vexhai spun toward her, his forearms moving in agitation. Impossible. Our tactical computers have run 17 million simulations. The optimal response pattern has been calculated to a precision of, your simulations assume rational actors following predictable behavior patterns, Lieutenant Rodriguez interrupted, studying the enemy formation on his handheld device. But look at their approach vector. They're not optimizing for fuel efficiency or communication lag. They're using an intimidation formation designed to cause psychological damage before engagement even begins. The alien instructor stared at him blankly. Dr. Wright stepped forward, his tablet displaying comparative analysis. Director, may I ask about your species' evolution regarding conflict resolution? The Altarian people achieved peace through rational discourse over 3,000 years ago. Vexhai replied with obvious pride. We have no need for the primitive violence that characterized our ancestors. And the Zentari? Wright asked their trembling escort. Conflict is resolved through pheromone-based emotional exchange. Violence is ... unthinkable. Wright nodded grimly. That's what I thought. He turned to the assembled alien cadets. You've all evolved past the need for violence, which means you've also evolved past the ability to understand predatory behavior. Those ships out there aren't approaching like rational beings seeking negotiation. They're approaching like hunters. Ensign Park had been quietly analyzing the enemy fleet composition. Director, what kind of defensive capabilities does the Academy have? We have the finest shielding technology in the galaxy, replied Instructor Zikthu, a massive granite collective representative whose stone-like features radiated confidence. Our barriers can withstand any theoretical attack. Theoretical? Sarah asked. Well, ... Yes, they have never been tested under actual combat conditions. But the mathematical models are flawless. The humans exchanged glances that spoke volumes. Sir, Sergeant Chang said carefully, would you mind if we reviewed your defensive systems? From a ... Deathworlder ... perspective? 20 minutes later, the human delegation had effectively taken over tactical planning for the Academy's defense. What they discovered horrified them. This isn't a military academy, Rodriguez muttered as he reviewed the weapon systems. It's a theoretical discussion group with really expensive toys. The defensive weapons were designed to deliver precise, non-lethal deterrent effects. The shield systems automatically adjusted to prevent any force impact above a preset safety threshold. Even the communication arrays were programmed to prioritize diplomatic contact protocols over tactical coordination. Look at this, Dr. Wright called from a secondary console. Their entire tactical database is built around the assumption that all conflicts can be resolved through proper application of game theory and resource allocation mathematics. They literally don't have contingency plans for opponents who aren't interested in rational negotiation. Sarah was studying the Academy's layout when she noticed something that made her blood run cold. Director Vexai, how many civilians are on this station? Civilians? The Altarian looked confused. There are no civilians. Everyone here is either a student or instructor. Students aren't combatants, Sarah said firmly. How many non-military personnel are on this station right now? The calculation took several minutes, requiring input from multiple databases. When the final number appeared, the command center fell silent. 47,000 beings, Vexai whispered. But surely that doesn't matter. This is an academy, a place of learning. No one would attack. His words were cut off as proximity alarms began screaming. The unknown fleet had dropped out of hyperspace directly above the academy. Their weapons already charging, the lead ship broadcast a message that filled the command center with harsh, guttural sounds that needed no translation. The universal translator struggled with the language, but the intent was clear: surrender or be destroyed. Krovic Dominion, Wright read from his rapidly updating database. Aggressive expansionist species from the Galactic Rim. They've been absorbing border territories for the past decade. Their negotiation protocol consists of demand submission, execute resistance, enslave survivors. But this is clearly a misunderstanding, protested Instructor Kellenis, a crystalline being whose faceted body was flickering with distress. We must open diplomatic channels. Explain that this is an educational institution. Sarah grabbed the communication controls before anyone could stop her. The aliens watched in shock as she opened a direct channel to the Krovic fleet without following any diplomatic protocols. Krovic vessels, this is Captain Sarah Chun of the Human Federation. You are targeting a civilian educational facility. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. The response came in accented but clear galactic standard. Humans? The Deathworld primitives? You amuse us, little predator. We will enjoy enslaving your species after we claim this station. The channel closed, and weapons fire began impacting the Academy's shields. 17% shield degradation, reported a Zentari technician, his antennae rigid with terror. At this rate, we have approximately 43 minutes before total shield failure. Around the command center, alien cadets were openly panicking. Some were attempting to hide under consoles. Others stood frozen in place, their minds apparently unable to process the reality of actual combat. Director, Sarah said quietly, I need you to authorize something. What? What do you require? Access to your restricted armory. Vexai's skin shifted to a pale silver. The restricted armory contains actual weapons. Live ammunition. They're only maintained for ... historical ... purposes. No one has fired them in centuries. Sir, Rodriguez said grimly. With respect, it's time for a history lesson. What followed was 30 minutes of controlled chaos as the human delegation transformed Sunspire Academy from a theoretical discussion center into something approaching an actual military installation. The aliens watched in fascination and growing awe as the humans moved through the facility with predatory efficiency. Lieutenant Chang took over shield management, immediately recognizing that the automatic safety protocols were actually weakening their defenses. These systems are designed to prevent harm to the station, she explained to the watching technicians as her fingers flew over controls. But they're doing it by dissipating energy evenly across the shields instead of concentrating defensive power at impact points. But that could cause dangerous power fluctuations, protested a technician. Dangerous. Power fluctuations are better than being dead, Chang replied bluntly as she overrode 3 centuries of safety protocols. Dr. Wright had connected with the Academy's central computer and was analyzing the Krovic vessels with software designed for hunting rather than academic study. Typical raider configuration, he announced. Fast, lightly armored, designed for intimidation rather than sustained combat. Their entire tactical doctrine is built around overwhelming less advanced opponents quickly. Less advanced? Instructor Zeekthu rumbled indignantly. Technologically advanced, Wright corrected. But tactically primitive? They've never faced opponents who can think like predators. Ensign Park had reached the restricted armory and was laughing in a way that made several alien observers back away nervously. Sir, she called over the communication system. You're going to want to see this. The historical weapons in this armory aren't primitive at all. They're military-grade Federation equipment, and there's enough here to outfit a small fleet. That's impossible, Vexhai protested. Those weapons were donated by member species for historical preservation. They're supposed to be deactivated. Oh, they're activated all right, Park's voice carried a distinctly predatory satisfaction. And several of them are human-designed systems that the Academy apparently doesn't realize are still operational. Sarah felt pieces of a puzzle clicking into place. Director, exactly who decided that Earth's first delegation should consist entirely of combat specialists? The decision was made by the Academy Board after consultation with ... Vexhai paused, his forearms moving in confused patterns. After consultation with species that had prior contact with human military forces, and those species recommended that you invite warriors to an academic institution. They said that human education couldn't be separated from human martial culture, that your learning process required practical application. Dr. Wright was nodding slowly. Sir, I think we've been set up. By who? Rodriguez asked. By someone who knew that the Krovic Dominion was coming, Sarah realized. Someone who knew that an academy full of theoretical tacticians would be helpless against actual predators. Someone who arranged for the only species in the galaxy with recent combat experience to be here when the attack came. The implications were staggering. But before anyone could explore them further, the shield alarms reached a new. The shields failed at exactly the moment Dr. Wright had predicted they would. Captain Sarah Chun watched the tactical display as Krovic boarding pods launched from their fleet like angry wasps from a disturbed nest. Around her, the command center had become something no one at Sunspire Academy had ever seen before, a functioning military headquarters, run by beings who understood that war was about survival, not theory. Boarding parties incoming, reported Sergeant Chang from her position at the modified tactical console. 47 pods targeting multiple entry points. They're using standard suppression doctrine overwhelming force at multiple locations to prevent organized resistance. How long until they breach the outer hull? Sarah asked. 6 minutes, 30 seconds, Lieutenant Rodriguez answered, his fingers dancing across weapons controls that hadn't been activated in centuries. But Captain, we have a problem. Sarah turned to him, knowing from his tone that problem was a significant understatement. The Krovic aren't just raiders, Rodriguez continued, data streaming across his displays. Look at this formation. Those aren't random attack patterns. They're implementing siege protocols designed for conquering military installations. Dr. Wright looked up from the xenobiology research station, his face pale. It gets worse. I've been analyzing their ship configurations. The Krovic have been studying galactic military academies for years. They know exactly how these institutions defend themselves, and they've designed their entire assault doctrine around exploiting weaknesses in theoretical tactical training. They're academy killers, Sarah breathed, understanding flooding through her. This isn't their first attack on an educational institution. Director Vexhai, who had been standing frozen in horror since the shields failed, suddenly found his voice. First attack? You mean they've done this before? 17 times in the past 8 years, Wright read from his rapidly updating database. Every major tactical academy in the Outer Rim. Hundreds of thousands of the galaxy's finest military minds enslaved or killed. They've been systematically eliminating the intellectual foundation of galactic defense. The implications hit the assembled aliens like a physical blow. They weren't just facing random raiders. They were facing a species that had made the systematic destruction of military education their primary strategy for galactic conquest. But why here? Instructor Kellenis asked, her crystalline form flickering with terror. Sunspire is in the heart of Federation space. It's supposed to be safe. Sarah was beginning to understand something that made her smile in a way that caused several aliens to back away from her. Because we're here, what do you mean? Vexhai demanded. The Krovik have been studying galactic military education for years, Sarah explained, her tactical mind assembling the pieces. They know exactly how to defeat theoretical warriors, but they've never encountered practical ones. Someone arranged for Earth's first delegation to be here precisely when the Krovik would attack. That's impossible, Vexhai protested. The timing would have to be perfect. The coordination would require... His words were cut off as emergency alarms screamed through the facility. The first boarding pod had made contact with the Academy's hull. All tactical cadets to defensive positions, Sarah commanded, her voice cutting through the chaos with predatory authority. Human delegation, implement Protocol 7. The aliens watched in fascination as the 12 humans moved with inhuman coordination, each taking position at critical points throughout the command center. But what happened next defied everything they thought they knew about combat. Instead of grabbing the advanced energy, weapons that filled the Academy's armory, the humans reached for what the aliens considered primitive chemical projectile weapons. Instead of activating the sophisticated targeting systems, they switched to manual control. Instead of implementing the computer-calculated optimal defensive patterns, they abandoned all automated systems entirely. What are you doing? Instructor Zekthu rumbled in confusion. You're ignoring our most advanced defensive technology. Your advanced technology is designed to fight other advanced technology, Lieutenant Chang replied as she manually recalibrated shield harmonics. But the Krovik aren't using advanced tactics. They're using predatory instincts? The only way to fight predators is with better predators. The first Krovik boarding party breached the outer hull 3 levels below the command center. The Academy's internal monitoring system showed 12 heavily armed aliens moving through the corridors with the confidence of beings who had done this many times before. What the monitoring system also showed was Dr. Wright, alone in the corridor ahead of them, apparently unarmed. Wright, what are you doing? Sarah demanded through the communication system. Psychological warfare, Wright replied calmly. The Krovik are used to their victims running or hiding. They're not used to prey that walks toward them. The alien instructors watched in horror as Wright approached the boarding party with empty hands and a slight smile. The Krovik leader, a massive being covered in natural armor plating, raised what appeared to be an energy weapon. Surrender, primitive, and your death will be quick, the Krovik snarled in heavily accented. Galactic Standard. Wright stopped just outside the weapon's effective range and tilted his head slightly. Actually, I was going to make you the same offer. What happened next occurred so quickly that the monitoring system had to replay it in slow motion for the watching aliens to understand. Right. Moved, not like a civilized being engaging in rational discourse, not like an academic discussing theoretical possibilities, but like something that had evolved to kill and had spent millions of years perfecting the art. The Krovik leader fired. But Wright was no longer where the weapon had been aimed. He was inside the alien's guard, his hands moving with surgical precision to disable nerve clusters that Dr. Wright had studied for months in preparation for this exact scenario. The massive Krovik warrior collapsed. Paralyzed but alive, his weapon clattering across the floor, the remaining 11 Krovik turned their weapons toward Wright. But by then it was too late. The corridors around them filled with human voices speaking in the calm, professional tones of predators coordinating a hunt. Contact rear. 3 hostiles. Side passage, suppressing 4. Command. Corridor 7 is clear. Moving to secondary position. The monitoring screens showed something that no one at Sunspire Academy had ever seen. Warfare as it was meant to be conducted. By beings who understood that violence was not a theoretical exercise, but a natural state requiring practical skills. The humans moved through the Academy's corridors like ghosts, appearing exactly where they needed to be, disappearing before enemy fire could find them. Their weapons primitive. Chemical projectile systems that the aliens considered relics proved devastatingly effective against opponents who had never faced kinetic warfare, but what truly shocked the watching aliens was not the efficiency of the human combat performance. It was the fact that the humans were teaching as they fought. Ensign Park to command, came a calm voice over the communication system. Krovik boarding party 7 neutralized. Also, Professor Kellenis, if you're watching this, note how kinetic weapons bypass energy shields by using momentum transfer rather than electromagnetic disruption. Rodriguez here, came another voice. Hostile Group 3 is contained, Dr. Vexhai. Your tactical computer predicted they would retreat to defensible positions, but predators don't retreat. They reposition for better attack angles? The difference is critical for defensive planning. Shang reporting, said a third voice. All boarding parties on levels 4 through 7 are neutralized. Instructor Zikthu, you asked why we abandoned automated systems. The answer is that automation responds to programmed scenarios, but effective combat requires adaptation to unpredictable variables in real time. Director Vexhai stared at the tactical displays, his forearms moving in patterns that indicated complete cognitive overload. They're conducting a combat education seminar while fighting for their lives. Not fighting for their lives? Sarah corrected gently. Hunting. There's a difference. The difference became clear as the battle progressed. The Krovik, accustomed to overwhelming, terrified victims, found themselves facing beings who not only showed no fear, but seemed to actively enjoy the challenge of combat. Their standard tactics, designed to exploit panic and confusion, proved useless against opponents who had been shaped by evolution on a world where everything was trying to kill them. Within 2 hours, all 47 boarding parties had been neutralized. Not killed, the humans had been careful about that, but captured, contained, and systematically stripped of their ability to continue fighting the Krovik fleet. Watching their elite boarding teams disappear into what should have been an easy target made a critical error. They assumed their forces had been defeated by superior numbers and advanced technology. They decided to test that assumption by landing their primary assault force, Captain Chung. Dr. Wright's voice came over the communication system. The main Krovik fleet is deploying their primary ground forces, 3,000 combat troops with heavy equipment. Recommendation? Sarah asked. I think it's time for the advanced class. What? The Krovik discovered as their assault force moved through the academy was that the 12 humans they had been fighting were not the academy's end.